next lecture will be taken by Dr. Mithwa Ghosh. She is Director of Clinical Diagnostic Strand Life Sciences, and she is Head of Department Molecular and Genetics at HCG Bangalore.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much. Just a minor correction, I am not a Strand Life Sciences now. We were merged with Strand Life Sciences, but now we are Tristar Sciences, a unit of HCG Enterprises and a family of HCG. Thank you so much to Dr. Kaustav sir and the organizing committee for giving me the opportunity to talk here. My topic is genomics and molecular pathology of head and neck malignancies, and I'll be holistic and I'll be talking about the head and neck and not restrict to any particular site. So we all know that head and neck cancers are heterogeneous, very aggressive, genetically complex collection of malignancies of oral cavity, nasopharynx, hypopharynx, and many more other sites. They can be divided into two categories, that is HPV positive and HPV negative. The major challenges of this cancer is late diagnosis, recurrent metastasis, relapse, and resistant to therapies. The current modality of treatment is radiation therapy, radiotherapy, or surgery, or combination of radio and chemotherapy. There have been lot of progress in this fields, but however, the overall survival of these cancers still remain dismal. So we have a different milestone or variable milestone in front of us when we do the treatment and management of such cancers, which are early diagnosis, understanding the biology of the cancer, which is very different from patient to patient, from tumor to tumor, the right therapy to the right patient at the right time, at the right dose, and definitely monitoring and surveillance so that we know the residual disease burden in the cancer. So therefore, there is an unmet need where we understand the molecular drivers, identify the biological drivers, because we know that cancer is a disease of genome and there are a lot of genetic alterations, and these drivers could be prognostic, can be predictive, can be therapeutic. We understand the cause of chemo resistance or the radio resistance, and therefore if you are aware of these causes at the beginning, we can take different actions and different precautions in treating such diseases, which might be a combination therapy, which might be adding different type of chemotherapy or targeted therapy or immunotherapy. Now, I just want to revisit, and especially if there are students or fellows, when I talk about genetic alterations in cancer or in tumor, there are a number of genetic alterations. Now, the question is, are all the genetic alterations important? No. There are certain alterations which are driver mutations. Now, driver mutations are those which drive the disease, whereas there are some passenger mutations, and passenger mutations are quiescent today, but please note that passenger mutations can be driver mutations tomorrow. So you need to have the consortium of the data in front of you if you have to manage a patient successfully. We all know that adult tumors and solid tumors have more mutations than the pediatric and the liquid tumors. Now, these mutations can be somatic, that is sporadic, which you acquire over a lifetime, or it could be inherited or germline, which occur in the germ cells or reproductive cells from the birth of an individual. Now, are we interested in all the driver mutations? No. We are interested only in the actionable mutations. What are actionable mutations? Actionable mutations are those for which US FDA approved therapies are available for the tumor what you are treating, or for some other tumors from which the drugs can be repurposed, or the actionable mutations are those for which clinical trials are available. So we are interested to find out actionable mutation in head and neck cancers. Now, if you really see the personalized medicine and why these mutations or genetic alterations are important, and if you see the numbers, there are more than 1,000 drugs which are available in market which are biomarker based, and 50% of therapies which are under development are actually biomarker based. So biomarkers are very important. There are more than 1,000 clinical trials which I call enriched clinical trials, which are based on biomarkers. There are more than 50 FDA approved therapies which are available. And the recent developments are the pan-agnostic markers. There are certain biomarkers which, if positive in pan cancers, the specific class of drugs can work. For example, MSI, TMB, NTRK, so on and so forth, which I will discuss later. Now, it's not a single mutation. We look for mutational signature, that is a battery or plethora of mutations in a cancer. And certain mutational signatures are HRR, that is homologous recombination repair pathway, like BRCA, ATM, so on and so forth. MMR, like MSI, and IO, immunotherapy signature, which are very important mutational signature. Now, this will enable us to have the treatment or management more personalized, which is nothing to tell your patient, nothing but to tell your patients, the payers, and the others to say that this drug is not for everybody, but this drug is for only for you, that is only for the patient. And this is very powerful. It's not a new concept if you understand or if you remember the discovery of imatinib and other drugs. We have been doing personalized medicine. What it essentially says is the organ-specific generalized treatment is now converting into a genome-specific treatment, more of targeted therapy, hormonal therapy, and immunotherapy. So, with this introduction, I will directly come to the genomic landscape of head and neck cancer. This was a landmark finding by TCGA in 2015, where they tested about 279 cancers, followed by another 534 next year. They segregated into HPV positive and negative and found out this complex genomic landscape, which I will not go into detail, but the biasness of this paper was it was mainly into oral cavity and HPV positive. However, if we just collate all this data, the genomic landscape of head and neck cancer is actually divided into several pathways like tyrosine kinase pathway, like EGFR, HER2, ERBB2, etc., PIK3 pathway, cell cycle regulation pathway like P53 and CDKN2A, Notch pathway, and DNA repair pathway like BRCA, BRCA, P53, ATM, etc. And if you see, all pathways have potential match therapies. So, all the tyrosine kinase inhibitors have either TKIs or biologicals. PIK3 pathway have PIK3 or mTOR pathways inhibitor. The CCNN and cell cycle pathway have CDK4/6 inhibitors. The ATM BRCA has now PARP inhibitors. Notch is generally an immune responsive gene which makes the tumor immunoresponsive. Now, with this, let us go to our data, which HCG as a group has, so before going to our data, I'll just put a little words on immunotherapy. There have been a lot of progress in immunotherapy for head and neck cancers. And if you see the immune microenvironment of head and neck, it's generally immune inflamed tumor microenvironment in head and neck, which is dominated by T lymphocytes or infiltrating lymphocytes, NK cells, and CDK4 cells. So, this makes the head and neck tumor microenvironment as tumor immune inflamed TME. And our own data have shown that more than 40 to 50% of head and neck cancers are PD-L1 positive, and more than 50% of our head and neck cohort is actually immune inflamed tumor microenvironment. There have been landmark publications or FDA approvals. Nivolumab was FDA approved in the year 2016 post CheckMate 141 clinical trial for improved survival of head and neck, especially for recurrent and metastatic head and neck cancers who have relapsed after platinum therapy. 2019 pembrolizumab got the FDA approval for head and neck cancers which have not responded to platinum, and PD-L1 testing became a companion diagnostics. There was another landmark paper. So, now there is a confusion. There are so many markers. There is PD-L1, there is MSI, there is TMB, which is the best marker. So, there was another landmark paper and which showed that irrespective of tumor marker, immune marker, all patients, whether it's HPV positive or negative, have the best response to immunotherapy if both the PD-L1 as well as tumor mutation burden are high. Now, there is a caveat to it. MSI, TMB, and PD-L1 as just a small part of the pie. There are many more genomic alterations which make the tumor responsive or non-responsive to immunotherapy. So, it's very important to understand the responses, the responsive and the non-responsive marker of immunotherapy, which are enlisted in the right side of my slide. CDK12, PD-L1 amplification, they are good response to immunotherapy, whereas MDM2, interferon gamma, P10, they are a bad response to immunotherapy, which if they are in the tumor should not be considered for immunotherapy. So having seen these multiple biomarkers, de novo resistance, tumor heterogeneity, emerging biomarkers, pan-cancer biomarkers, we could understand as a lab that a single test will not be able to find out all the biomarkers and give comprehensive report to the doctors. So we came up with a comprehensive test which we call as comprehensive genomic profiling, which is actually 500 gene panel along with MSI, TMB and other immune markers, HRR pathway, so that in a less time with less number of tissue, I can give a comprehensive report to the doctor. And this is our data from HCG. So we tested 100 head and neck cancers using a small panel, which is a 56 gene panel, and more than 50 tumors using a CGP. And if you see the result, the clinical utility of this test actually increased from 22 to 64%. So when we use a comprehensive genomic profiling with more number of targets, the amount of actionability or clinical utility markers increased from 22 to 64%. With CGP, no head and neck cancer came up with no mutation. So each cancer, every patient had some or the other mutations for which we could take an action. And these are the data. Most prevalent marker was P53 followed by PIK3. CDKN2A, as I showed, the biomarker which is very important for ribociclib and alpenciclib drugs. FGF19, the two biomarkers which are very important is tumor mutation burden, and I told you the importance of tumor mutation burden. This could not be identified by small panel. This could be identified only when we did a big panel or a comprehensive genomic panel. EGFR, ARID mutation, which makes the tumor again immune responsive. ATM, BRCA, which were responsive to olaparib or platinum or cisplatinum. So it gave us lot of targets which helped the clinician to take a comprehensive decision and do a treatment management accordingly. So this is a comparison of our data with the TCGA data, which shows almost a similar profile in Indian cohort. However, some genes are highly mutated in Indian cohort. With this, I will just show you a case study because evidence-based medicine needs evidence. This is a stage 4 HPV related CA oropharynx who underwent surgery, 3 cycles of NSCT with paclitaxel, carboplatin and other drugs. We did a small panel which was a 56 gene panel. The patient had PI3K mutated cancer, based on which chemotherapy was started for the patient. But however, the patient came up with recurrence and relapse. We did a second genomics testing from his metastatic site using a comprehensive genomic profiling of 500 genes when the patient was found to have a high TMB, tumor mutation burden. His other profile which was found in the first tumor remained the same, but the additional finding is tumor mutation burden which was high, based on which the patient was treated with immunotherapy and he is disease free after 41 doses. Recently we did a circulating tumor cell for the patient and it was found to be 0 in this patient. So with this, I'll come to my last part of the talk. You have seen there are so many tests, so many biomarkers. We generally use tissue, but in lab I always face tissue is an issue. Most of the time we don't have enough tissue to do the test. So what is the other way of doing this test? The other way of doing the test is liquid biopsy, and it is a paradigm shift in cancer diagnostics. Whatever you cannot do from the tissue, that can be tested from the blood sample. So liquid biopsies are of 3 types. CTC, that is circulating tumor cell, circulating tumor DNA and exosomes. And this is a technology which can isolate cells, cancer cells and the cancer nucleic acid from any liquid biopsy or any body fluids like saliva, CSF, urine, blood, etc. It takes care of the tumor heterogeneity because it's coming from the blood sample and can be matched with the solid tumor testing to get a comprehensive report. Now, when you use the liquid biopsy, I generally use this technique when I don't have the solid tumor to do the testing, or I have to do the minimal residual disease. As I said in my previous slide, that monitoring and surveillance of the patient after your treatment is very important. Now, you cannot do a repeat biopsy to monitor the tumor mutation or mutations, right? So you can do a liquid biopsy. So basically you have a patient, you have a biomarker, you have treated based on that biomarker, and you want to see whether the mutational load is going down or up, you can basically do a liquid biopsy, take the blood sample and check the mutation profile in the blood, which we call minimal residual disease monitoring. So it's a very strong platform to do a monitoring and surveillance of the patient. So the other liquid biopsy is CTC, which has just been launched in HCG. This is a cell search platform which is FDA approved for breast, colon and prostate. In head and neck, we are developing the data. We have been able to find the circulating tumor cells in the blood, and Dr. Satish, our medical oncologist, is there. He has been doing a trial of low dose immunotherapy, which he will talk about, and he is monitoring the CTC to monitor the response of low dose chemotherapy. So these are the tumor cells present in circulation, cells with metastatic potential, and it comes from heterogeneous population of primary tumor or the metastatic lesion. It has to be used in combination of other therapies like PET-CT and other tumor markers, and serial testing of CTC is very important to monitor your patient. And this is, I'm not going into the details, but this has been shown after 3 landmark clinical trials in breast, prostate and colon, which has to be also set up in head and neck, that a patient having a CTC less than the threshold value throughout the treatment will have a better overall survival than a patient whose CTC increases over the threshold value. So with this, I will end my talk, concluding the fact that it is very important to subtype the tumor, whatever the tumor is, specifically the head and neck, identify the drivers of recurrence and metastasis, so that we have a treatment, a comprehensive decision on the treatment and management of the tumor. It's very important to understand the spatial and the temporal heterogeneity of the tumor. It is very important to start the biomarker-driven clinical trials. Then only we learn from our findings. Its synthetic lethality has to be taken care in head and neck also, because these are prevalent biomarkers like BRCA and ATM. More combination therapy and more immunotherapy needs to be given. With this, I end the talk, thanking you all and ready to take questions if any. And this is my lab in Bangalore. So when you come to Bangalore, do visit our lab. Thank you so much.